Hello guys, this is Mr. Sharp. This is your Reader's Workshop lesson for today. It's going to be very similar to yesterday because in general we just need more practice with this concept. You guys did okay. We had some trouble finding emotions for our response column. If you did have trouble, then I looked at your facts and I asked myself, okay, has this student found the important facts, the important ideas, because that's our real focus. And if you did, then maybe you got like a 2 or a 2.5. But we need to work a little bit more on following our emotions to find the important parts of writing. So I was originally going to have you guys read this one called Senakomoko, My World, which is here, and it's a story about Pocahontas. And then, while looking for the passage for me to read, I came across Diary of a Teenage Refugee, and I actually think that's the better one. That's the one where there can be more emotional reactions. So you guys are going to read Diary of a Teenage Refugee, and for this lesson I will read this one for you guys. And hopefully this is a shorter video because it's the same as yesterday, so we can get right to the point. Alright. Like yesterday, what is your feeling towards the fact that you write down? Try to find facts that will give you a strong emotional reaction. Use your question column to explore possible emotional reactions. And check the word wall for feeling words. Some people did that yesterday. Let's have more people do it today because we need to find those feeling words. Alright. The Powhatan people are a Native American tribe. Let's make it a little bigger. They made contact with the English who would settle Jamestown in 1607. Tsenakomaka, also spelled Tsenakomaka, is the Powhatan name for their homeland, what is now Virginia and part of the Eastern Shore. As you read, take notes on how the narrator describes her life before and after the English arrive. As I hold you in my arms, my son, I wonder if you will ever experience the world of your Powhatan ancestors. Let me tell you, Thomas, of my own childhood in Virginia, before and after the English came. I was born the daughter of a mighty Indian chief, Powhatan. My father controlled many of the native tribes in the eastern part of the land the English call Virginia. I'm going to pause, guys, when you see these numbers. If it's a word you don't know, it tells you some more facts. And also down here at the bottom, it has all the notes. Maybe it has some definitions for different words. Okay, moving on. Although I am now called Rebecca in the English world, in our Indian world I was first known as Amonute. According to our custom, I spent my first years with my mother and her relatives, but my father often visited us. Our family ties were strong. Every morning, we rose early to greet the sun. We offered prayers of thanksgiving for the new day and bathed in the cold river. We children were little. When we were hungry, we ate cornbread and a meat and vegetable stew that was always kept warm in a pot on the fire. During the day, I helped with planting, weeding, and harvesting the crops, corn, beans, and squash. With the other girls and women, I gathered wild berries, nuts, and greens. This was our work. The boys hunted and fished with the men and practiced to become warriors. At this point, I have kind of a general feeling for a lot of these. There's not like one sentence I want to quote or paraphrase. I just kind of want to talk about their lifestyle because I think she's talking about her lifestyle. So I wrote, the Powhatans lived a nice life in a beautiful part of Virginia. Her, waking up to greet the sun and picking berries, it sounds nice. How much is the same as what I saw when I was in Virginia? Because I used to live in Virginia, so that was an easy question for me. And my emotional response? I'm sad, knowing that they would lose their homes to colonists. You'll notice that all my responses start with I. I just thought that was an easier way to talk about emotions. And I know the end of this story, that the colonists take everything from the Powhatans, so it can be kind of sad reading her words of before that happened. Women also built our homes. We bent young trees, saplings, into a frame, then covered it with mats that we wove from reeds. Our homes were movable. We carried them from place to place during deer hunting season. The other girls and I learned to weave because we needed new reed mats every few months. Inside our home, our yahakan, it was dark and snug. We stored our belongings in baskets that hung from the walls. The fire in the center kept our home warm in the winter, and the smoke kept out bugs in the summer. We slept on platforms covered with deer skins and other furs. I was never lonely as a child, for there were always family members around. We did everything together. In the evenings, our elders shared stories and songs. Often, we danced late into the night. I learned much through listening, watching, and working with my mother and her family. When I was about 8 years old, I went to live with my father, your grandfather, Chief Powhatan. I soon became my father's favorite daughter. I had grown into a strong, sturdy girl with an independent streak. My father nicknamed me Pochahontas, which means little mischievous one. In my father's village, I observed the coming and going of important people. Powhatan often hosted large feasts, which I helped prepare. When I was 11, the English came to our land. They had traveled across the great water with the hope of finding new land filled with riches. Instead, they found many hardships. Without enough food and supplies, they suffered greatly from hunger and sickness. Many of them died. That was the English year 1607. My father was unsure if the English were friends or foes. They brought no women or children, as if they planned to make war, and they built a fort around their settlement. It was a dilemma for my father. Should he consider the English his friends or go to war against them? If you were curious what dilemma meant, a hard situation or problem. And this for me really stuck out, this whole paragraph. Chief Powhatan didn't know if he could trust the English. So I was thinking about this because there's plenty of situations where it's like, oh, what should I do? Should I trust this person? Should I not? If I don't trust them, and then they know I don't trust them, do they turn against me when trusting them would have made it better? So all of that I combined into this question. What is the best way to act when you have to make decisions when you don't know all the facts? And my response was that, let's make this even, I feel uncomfortable. I wish that the Powhatans had kept their land. At the same time, my ancestors were the colonists. So I can tell that the, ancestors, like your family going way back in time. Like the people that I came from are the people who won. They're also kind of the bad guys in this story. That's sort of an uncomfortable feeling to have. Let's move on. My clicker's not working. There we go. I first met Captain John Smith when my father's warriors captured him. He was a powerful leader of the English, and our people respected him for his bravery. The Powhatan holy men declared him to be our friend. During a special ceremony, Captain Smith came to believe that I saved him from being put to death by my father. In fact, it was Powhatan who made the decision to treat Captain Smith as an adopted son. As a young girl, I had little power over what happened to anyone. Captain Smith was released, and my father gave food to the settlers. He helped them survive. Though I was but a child, and Captain Smith was a grown man and a foreigner, we became friends. He treated me kindly and gave me gifts of beads. But when I visited the Jamestown settlement, I didn't go to see Captain Smith. I mostly spent time playing with the young boys there. And if we were doing a little bit different reader's workshop, this would get a whole, this reminds me of, maybe kids who speak different languages, or when a kid is new in a neighborhood, but they just go out and play with the other kids anyway. Something I really like about kids is kids are kids. They want to go and play with other kids. As time passed, the friendship between my father and the English began to fall apart. Captain Smith did not act the way an adopted son should. He went against my father's wishes and continued to build his settlement called Jamestown. It was now clear to Powhatan that the English wanted his land for their own. In the year 1613, the English captured me. They held me against my will for 1 whole year, hoping to make my father change his mind. But it didn't work. During that year, I fell in love with your father, an Englishman named John Rolfe. Remember, this whole thing is Pocahontas talking to her son, Thomas. Though I already had an Indian husband, John asked my father for his permission to marry me. When Powhatan agreed, it was the end of my life as I had known it. John Rolfe and I were married in 1614. I see now that the English changed the way of life for my people. There's less land for the Powhatan people to farm, so they cannot sustain themselves in the old ways. They have begun to depend on the English for food and trade goods. Sickness and death have done terrible things to my people, the result of diseases brought by the English. I fear that the world of my childhood is gone forever. And that, at the end, there were a lot of facts there. When I tried to think of the one that I had the strongest feeling about, sickness stuck out. Sickness brought from Europe killed lots of Powhatans. My question, did the English know they were bringing diseases? And another I statement, I feel vigilant. And if you don't know what vigilant is, it's okay, I give you a clue in the next sentence. We need to keep up our procedures for cleaning to keep the coronavirus under control. So vigilant is sort of that feeling of like, keep going, don't give up. And once again, you might find vigilant or other interesting words that you didn't know on the word wall. Today your assignment is much like yesterday. In your notebook, you will read this article and you will write down 2 notes in each column. Good luck, guys. I'm here to help.